How do we fucking do this podcast anyway?
That's staying in, right?
How many episodes have we done?
Let us tell you.
Hello, it's me, Jay, your DM. I use he, him.
I'm Matt, he, him.
I'm Cal, he, him.
Hi, I'm Rochelle, the drunk phytologist. I use she, her.
And this is Insight Check, where we delve into the dungeon of your bad decisions and retrieve the treasure of wisdom. Ooh, for a second there, I was scared there was going to be 2 boy casts in a row. So anyway, we have some new faces this week.
We are the new Insight Check.
Listen, your old party, you had the TPK, you came back with the one survivor.
Exactly.
Went to
This is
level
this
one.
is the sequel to Insight Check.
We are Insight Check 2.0.
Yeah, I'm actually Air. I just rolled a new character for this week.
Yeah, so Cal will be playing the role of Air. I mean, it fits because of the word crimes that you both share.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm actually Haley. I took a wild departure.
You'll remember Matthew from a previous episode that wasn't any good.
That's hurtful.
I'm Jarika. I quit the library and have started working in a research lab. So, yeah.
Absolutely. So this is DP, who has also been on the show before.
Twice.
It's
So
not a
not
contest.
entirely new faces. Like
Yeah.
we like to ease you into all these various personalities. Well, everyone, this is a new episode of Insight Check, but it's going to proceed very similar to all the previous ones. Don't get too nervous. If you're afraid of change, we change very gradually here. So the first thing we typically start things off with is a dungeon crawl. Now, a show that was produced by anyone with any level of competence would have, before recording, asked if people present had dungeon crawls
Not you.
prepared, but not us. No, we like to fly by the seat of our pants here.
We like to do things the ICP way.
I think Kaldrenon has a dungeon crawl, and we can start with that one, and then hopefully everybody else can
better.
find one in the interim.
Yes, I will bloviate for a moment while everyone else thinks about something interesting to
Yeah,
say.
because you've had a really cool concept that you've been talking about on Twitter all week.
Yes, I've gotten a lot of positive feedback to an idea I posted half seriously earlier this week, which was that I wanted to do a podcast where I essentially just ask people to tell me about their OCs. And obviously that has a lot of tie-in to D&D and other tabletop role-playing games, because that's where people create lots of OCs. It's not going to be exclusive to D&D, but I am going to be creating a podcast where I just have guests on and let them tell me about characters they've made. And I will be calling it OC Do Not Steal, because what else could I call it?
Obviously.
I think the thing that I like about this concept is that I strongly believe that every person is sort of innately a storyteller, and that speaks to Dungeons and Dragons as a hobby. People enjoy creating these characters and telling these stories, and they have different approaches, and everybody's story is different and unique, and that's part of what makes D&D so fun, because everybody you play with is going to have a different sort of take on the narrative structure. So OC Do Not Steal is a great concept because you get to see not only like the weird characters and ideas that people come up with, but also the unique way that they convey these ideas. And I really like it because I don't think that storytelling is this sort of mystical art that only the great shamans can perform.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think pretty much everybody can do it.
Yeah, and 2 other things, if I could share them quickly, about why I'm excited about it is, I think one of the things that makes any podcast the most compelling is when the person who's talking is excited and passionate about the thing they're talking about. And when you get people talking about something they made, they're always going to be more excited about it. The other thing that I'm excited about that's going to be a little more unique about how I run the show is I'm going to do the first few episodes with friends and people I already know, because that'll help me get used to producing and recording a podcast, which I've never done before. But from then on, I'm going to try various different approaches for basically opening up the guest pool to anyone who's interested. And obviously, depending on interest, it's going to be hard to manage all of that. And I might have to use some sort of like random selection process or whatever. But I want to make sure that I'm not just limiting it to people I already know or people who are already established in like the D&D world, people that are already well-known names, but to just let people who are excited about characters they've made and want to tell the world about them, give them a chance to have an audience for a day. So I haven't totally figured out the works for that yet, but I'm excited about that idea.
It's an opportunity. I think one of the most fun things about it is that pretty much everybody has a character that they've come up with at some time, especially in our circle, where we kind of hang out with sort of creative types and those who have that sort of mentality of making art, making characters, making stories. So yeah, definitely. I think that you'll have no shortage of people who want to bloviate about their weird niche interest character.
Yeah, I'm excited for it.
I like the concept a lot.
New season of Taz, The Adventure Zone.
Oh yeah,
They're back in that D&D well.
I really liked that first episode.
Yeah.
It was really solid.
Don't do it to me. I haven't done it yet.
Yeah, I haven't finished the episode yet because my life has been crazy, but I'm really liking what I've heard so far.
Absolutely. Okay, Taz graduation. So the 3 characters look really interesting. We won't get into spoilers because I know a lot of people haven't checked it out yet.
Particularly me.
Like, it's really fun to see Griffin as a player, for one. Griffin is a really talented role player and really funny, really quick on the draw with creating characters that are sort of amusingly flawed, I would like to say. Yeah, he plays the kind of, like, kicked puppy character really well. The kind of constant sufferer. Yeah, the voice that Justin went with was crazy.
You're actually right about Griffin's character, because one of the, special podcasts they did for...
Maximum Fun.
One of the special podcasts he did, his character was not similar, like, in the same way, but, like, also had, like, oh, I fucked up in my life somewhere, and now things are bad for me.
I feel like he's very good at being like the butt of a joke in a funny way. Like he's very happy to take the sort of negative end of a joke. And like, I mean, he had a whole show where he jokingly vored Nintendo amiibos. So obviously he's very comfortable with making fun of himself.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he did that a lot in Taz Balance or in Taz Amnesty. There's so many different NPCs with a different spin on that same sort of theme, you know?
Yeah. And Travis is doing a great job at the helm. Obviously, one episode, not a whole lot to go on, but I mean, the first episode was heavily reliant on Travis as a DM to pull off, and I think it went really, really well. I mean, no offense to Amnesty, but I feel like I'm already more invested in Graduation than I ever was in Amnesty. These characters are just so likable, and this setting is just so interesting, and I'm just so curious where it's going to go from here. I really look forward to this season. It looks to be shaping up to be something really special. You can obviously tell that they took a lot of time to prepare for this one.
It feels like Fable, the game, where it's, oh, you're going to a school and people are good or well, not good or evil, but like heroes or villains. And they make that distinction where the
villain and hero role is divorced from morality. The villains are not necessarily evil. The heroes are not necessarily good. It's more of like a corporate structure, almost like Acquisitions Incorporated in that way, where there are rules and standards and practices, and it's all regulated. None of this is like the sort of freewheeling high fantasy adventure you might expect. It's all sort of almost more mundane in a way. In the way that it's all sort of governed by this sort of leading body. It looks like it's going to be a very interesting take on this kind of story.
How do we get to a monster devouring the universe from here?
It's only a few dice rolls away.
It was both seasons, wasn't it? Does anybody else have a dungeon crawl, or should we move on to questions?
Damn it.
Great.
Okay. Sort of 2 things, but one, I've been running a Curse of Strahd game.
Amazing.
Which has
Love
been
that campaign.
A lot of fun, although I've been running it in a strange way. I've been running it as a small folk Curse of Strahd game.
Oh.
So what race or species is Strahd?
Bat, right?
He is a vampire bat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Come on,
I should have known. I don't know why I asked.
But he can change.
I mean, it could have been a lizard. You never know.
He can change into a mouse folk.
Could have been a cute little bunny.
Oh, he shifts into a mouse folk? That's
Yes.
cute.
And
Nice.
so
I do
have
like
that.
the idea of Strahd the mouse. That is...
I worked very hard of bringing elements from the valley, and I talked to Leap about it a little bit, of the mists coming into the valley. And so this is for the small folk game for our listeners. If listen to any previous Inside Check episodes, and other podcasts, you'll know what it is. But I on purpose made sure that Batrovia was a very different ecosystem than the Valley to make it very obvious, because the Valley has a swamp in it. It's cliffs, also surrounded by this old growth forest. So we're basically in the Pacific Northwest. And Batrovia is a savanna grassland.
Oh, interesting.
A gigantic live oak with a birdhouse on the top of it that hoards over everybody else. And
that is really cool.
It's a pine savanna instead. So now we're in Florida. And it has been a lot of fun. I have some of the best players, which include Darwin or Shadow Dar, Postability, Takun, which is my husband and the guy who regularly lurks around here.
Postability has been raving about this game.
Yeah, it's actually a little embarrassing. And
they are having a whale of a time. You can just tell.
Yeah, and Nitpixie. I will say that we had a player drop out, but then come back, and I'm actually going to have her surprise come back this weekend, and no one else knows about it but me and her.
Wow, and this episode will come out after that happens,
right.
so no
they
spoilers.
Have no idea. This is going to be so fun.
By the time you hear this, the players will already have been delighted.
Yes.
Exactly. It's a pre-delight that'll be a post-delight upon delivery.
Yes. So it has been a lot of fun thinking about taking sort of the classic Gothic horror, but then also trying to mold it into a different kind of setting and figure out the mechanics of like, okay, well, how would this work? So for example, we don't have wolves in Batrovia. So instead we have weasels, which are Strahd's servants.
That's nice,
Instead
yeah.
of having were-ravens, we have were-moths.
Oh!
Right.
I love that.
Yeah, so it's been a lot of fun creating and working on where you can kind of take things that nature already gives you and tweak it and make it fun and fantastical. I did give them a little sidekick, which is a moth named Soot, who happens to be a cleric.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Barovia is a scary place.
Yeah, Barovia is a scary place. And this actually came from Unearthed Arcana. They have sidekick rules, which is really helpful for if you have an NPC or somebody hanging around, but you're not sure what to do with them. Or if your players do get a pet, but you don't want them to just be like this liability or forgotten about or just purely flavor. But you don't have to do a whole character build.
Yeah, they actually officially released that in the new starter kit.
Oh, did they?
Good. Dragons of Icespire Peak has an official version of that. And it's on D&D Beyond as well. Now, it's finally come out on D&D Beyond.
Yeah.
Because they had Target exclusivity for quite a while. Yeah, no, the sidekicks are amazing. It's basically like one or two choices at each level. Very simple, straightforward choices as you level them up. And then you have what is effectively like a monster stat block of very limited choices, but it's a character build.
Right.
So all the sort of things you might expect a rogue to be able to do, a sidekick can roughly approximate, but it's not going to be like as overwhelming as trying to run a full second character.
Exactly. And it also is helpful for them because you can either run it or have somebody else run it, but then it's not taking the agency from the players where it's like, this NPC is doing everything for us. You know,
and power-wise, they're generally like one level behind the party.
Exactly.
Like, they're not quite as strong as party members, so they're never going to really, like, outshine. But, I mean, a healing word's a healing word, whether it's level 1 or level 12.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
it's critical.
That saved their butts when we were doing the Death House, which was a death stump. But anyway.
That's adorable. Just shrinking down Strahd's adventure, like, adds that little bit of cuteness that I think a kind of grim story like that needs.
Yeah, but it's like, you know, when you have a moth that just, you know, can cast light, you know, can do spare the dying, can do a healing word or cure wounds, but he doesn't have armor. He can bite for 1d4.
Yeah.
Makes for, like, not only a nice, like, cute thing and a thing that just adds some fun to the campaign, but it's also a really nice way to provide a little bit of balance so that the characters, like the players, can make characters that they want based on what's inspiring to them and exciting to them, not necessarily need to worry about party balance during character creation, and then just use that sidekick as a way to just smooth off the edges of what's missing from the party.
We had a bard, a sorcerer, and a warlock, and I didn't want to tell them that, no, you can't play those characters.
Right.
Yeah, and that's what I see all the time when I'm starting a new campaign. Somebody's like, "Oh, who's going to be the healer?" And it's like, you don't need to have, 5th edition, if you have one person who can do healing word, you're probably fine.
Yeah.
Now, you do run into a problem if none of your players can cast healing word.
Oh, I don't know how
Sometimes
that
may be
Jay.
an issue.
I know nothing about that.
Absolutely nothing.
It also depends who your DM is.
If your DM is Jay, you need healing word.
Yeah, you do.
Nah.
But, yeah, no, that was so fun, and I literally had that little idea, and I'm like, this might not work. I've basically been told from everyone that they will never forgive me if this moth dies.
So how are you going to kill this moth?
I know, because they love him so much.
You don't necessarily have to kill it. As soon as you get to that church with all the crypts that they can open and get curses, that's where it's really that's where the danger comes in.
Oh, yeah,
that moth can turn evil.
Yeah, how do you
all-
turn this moth to make them hate and want to destroy
Yeah,
this moth?
and hate people. Well, and especially because I put up a picture and I'm like, oh yeah, well he's a white tussock moth, and they go, that's a real moth, isn't it? And I go, who am I?
Yeah,
Of course, it's a real moth.
We've met you.
Yeah.
It's like, I have a brand.
Imagine you introducing made-up flora or fauna.
Yeah,
Yeah, that does not happen. I'm sorry. I cannot do it.
doesn't happen.
I will have an aneurysm.
Completely off topic, not interesting at all for the podcast.
Okay.
Oh, well, let's talk about that.
I did actually use the Wilden in my other D&D campaign. They met a small enclave of Wilden, made allies with them. It was pretty, I don't know. I was like, well, I have this race that has all this lore and information and how it works. I might as well use it now.
DP did all this work for me. Thanks.
Yeah, exactly. DP did all this work, and I might as well take advantage and use it all in my setting now.
I appreciate it. I appreciate your flexibility as well as your open-mindedness to deal with my
Now,
very, very dorky ideas.
No, it was really good. I love the Wilden. I actually had to pull up your tweet with all the list of what the smells and what they mean are. Yeah, so that way I could figure out how they interacted with everyone else.
I'm in that game, and I cheated by using Speak with Plants.
Anyway, let's get back to what this podcast is actually about, which is answering questions. And we have
Just talking about our games.
Well, yeah, also talking about D&D. That's true.
Nerding out.
We have a few questions this week from our D&D. I picked some real winners. They left me in charge of the question gathering because I'm the only actual member of the podcast who's here today.
Because the rest of them are dead. We've already established this.
Yeah, TPK, they're all wiped out.
Death is temporary.
Yeah, that we decided was definitely I picked a bunch of questions, and then I scrounged the bottom of the barrel to find people.
I picked people I really like and Matthew.
And me, yeah.
Yeah. You knew where I was going. Oh, we get each other. That's sweet.
It's something.
Yay. I get to be liked today. Anyway.
It's true. When are you ever not liked? Hang on a second.
I'm teasing you, darling.
Hold on, stop these D&D goofs.
Hang on a second now.
You are loved and cherished.
Yeah, you're loved and appreciated, and you're going to acknowledge that.
I appreciate that.
Kaldrenon, you're also there.
I exist.
Yeah. Did you call him Kaldrenon?
I've never
I
said
think
it correctly.
so.
Look, I misread it. I misread it
listen.
day one, and it's stuck.
And it's
Yeah,
stuck.
and
It's
that wouldn't be the
forever.
first time that someone has mistaken me with Leia Organa's home planet, so it's fine.
It's fine.
Okay, so we have a few questions from r/D&D today. They are a real smorgasbord of... I mean, listen, I picked them. You know what to expect. How does one play a barbarian with the mentality of a gorilla? I am wanting to take on the true neutral alignment using blue and orange morality. Specifically, a barbarian who thinks like a gorilla, kind of like how people make druids who think like wolves. Is it like that? Is it though? Because, druids grow up in the woods, so it kind of makes sense that they have, a pack mentality sometimes.
True.
Do barbarians grow up in a band of gorillas? Actually, would Tarzan not be a barbarian? That's a good question.
Good question. Also, they're
Yeah.
highly social creatures, and also depends on what which gorilla are you doing? Because if it's Coco the gorilla, she can speak sign language and lie. So, highly intelligent.
Great.
Everyone's just like, damn it, we forgot that we brought this person on who knows actual facts.
Listen, you can't bring real smart answers to this.
Not allowed.
Now, hang on. I like blue and orange morality. I want to dig into that
so
for
what
a
is that?
second.
Is that a concept you've heard of before? Because that's an unfamiliar term.
What the fuck is blue and orange morality?
I'm not alone in not knowing what that is.
Well, let me
don't
walk you over
either.
to tvtropes.com where I get
So
all
when I
knowledge.
saw this, I thought it was like Magic the Gathering, but orange isn't one of those.
Dumb
No.
fucking nerd.
Yeah. The secret sixth color in Magic the Gathering that's only legal during Halloween.
Absolutely.
You missed it,
the
Jay.
sixth power at the center of the circle, orange. It dominates over all.
I am a subset of nerd that knows nothing about Magic the Gathering. I'm just going to throw that out there. If you wish to banish me.
Well,
that's
now look who's the smart one in this conversation.
fine.
So
Okay, there you go.
there's no shame in not being familiar
Yeah.
with Magic the Gathering, but I am going to stop talking to you now.
Oh,
Okay,
wow.
I
Okay,
know.
so blue-orange morality. You guys understand your typical alignment chart: lawful, chaotic, good, evil. Blue-orange is like a z-axis to that. It's like, oh, you come from a culture that is so different that we cannot apply the mores that we are used to.
Okay.
Okay, now imagine that I was really stupid and I still didn't get it.
Explain it. Wait, Matt, I have a personal request from me, Cal. Please explain this to me like I'm Jay.
Hey! Fuck all of you!
Okay. Have you ever used, like, fairies in your game?
Sure, yes.
Like, you understand that, like, their way of thinking is not, like, say, the thinking of a human.
Right. They have like a Fae mentality.
So, in some ways, you could say that, like, Fae have a blue-orange morality.
Oh, okay. So it's saying that like there's a third point of reference in
Yes.
the chaotic neutral. Like it would be like chaotic neutral and then a third thing.
If you're lawful
chaotic
chaotic,
neutral then Fae.
yeah, if your normal alignment chart is like your XY.
Like from Fae to Shadowfell. Sure.
Right, so it's kind of like you have people who are lawful or chaotic within a certain moral code, but then you have like another moral code over here where what lawful means in that moral code is different from what lawful means in like our moral code. And
Right,
so
where certain things are.
those points of like translating between moral codes, that is that sort of what blue and orange is about?
Yeah, it's like a third axiom on which that kind of complicates the typical morality. If we were to say like a very stereotypical like honor-bound samurai, is like honor would be a third axis in the morality. There'd be like the lawful, the just, and then like maintaining honor and then just being dishonored would be another axis on which the morality can play.
Right.
Because like you can be a dishonorable, lawful, neutral character.
Sorry, to take it to another nerdy area, just because I feel like we need to hit all the points. You have the Federation, and then you have like Klingons,
Right.
and I'm
Yeah.
not going to explain it.
Well, they do have a certain type of behavior. So I did listen to a talk by a primatologist about how humans have a hard time interacting with or studying primates or monkeys or chimps or anything like that because we believe they have the same moral code we do, which they don't. And the best way to describe it is they don't have any tact filter on their emotions. You know, everything's at a 10.
Right.
So it is completely okay where it's I'm mad at you, I will just slug you, right? Like, there's not talking about it. There's not, like, calming down or going over it. It's like, no, I will just straight up bite and kick you, right? And throw a tantrum.
And that is not necessarily, wrong. It's just the way they are.
That's just the way they are, right? And then later, they'll, groom each other and make up, right? But, like, there's not... They don't.
So are we
have-
saying
and
that
that's
the moral
also-
axis of gorillas is grooming to punching?
It's
somewhere in that range.
it is certainly
it's somewhere in that range.
a level of responses.
Because they also, chimpanzees will do this also. It's like if they are sorry about something, they will put their arm inside the other one's mouth to be like, you could bite me if you want to.
And we're back to Vor.
That's, damn it. But
Just a little
the whole thing is that's a very trusting gesture, right? Where it's the, are we good? Right? Like, are we okay? Like, I'm making myself vulnerable to you. And if you're not mad anymore, then we're okay. Because there's no grudges, right? There's no intrigue. Like, you just take care of it right now, right? And then you're over it.
Right, like if you have beef, you just hash it out.
Yeah, exactly.
So user hiding berserker, I guess the answer is you should have your barbarian punch people and then put their fist in somebody's mouth to make up for it later. And then you will have
them
truly
punch you.
captured the essence.
Now, I do want to
of the
ask
gorilla.
about this little parenthetical here. You know, like druids who think like wolves. Because, is that a thing?
Amy T. Falcone.
All right, that's one.
I mean,
There's definitely the sort of, like, the trope of, the druid who has spent a lot of their time reclusive in the forest and they haven't spent a lot of time with people, so they've sort of, their social skills have been dulled. But I don't know, I certainly can't think of a character from any games I've played or watched or listened to that included a character who was, like, this far outside of normal human culture that you actually needed
I
a
do think
translation
like Raised
layer.
by Wolves. I think like Raised by Wolves is a pretty common trope, right?
I suppose so.
I mean, we got Mowgli, right?
Okay.
We got a media example.
I
Right.
want to say yes, but I'm contractually obligated to disagree with you.
Okay. Let's go on to another question.
No.
It's getting too smart and educational in here. I'm going to edit in some fart jokes in post. It's going to be fine.
This is a nerd podcast for nerds. We're allowed to be smart sometimes, as long as we're dumb other times, which
I don't
is
think
why
you
I'm
listen
here.
to this podcast.
Listen, we're taking it in,
That
we're taking it in bold
that
new
puts you
directions.
among prestigious company.
I will say that you all are rank much higher than the most nerds that I'm with because they are excruciatingly boring. So
Okay, let's look at another question. User Flack, spelled FlackTP, spelled with a 4, figure it out. Does anyone know how to defeat a demon named Pazuzu? Probably butchered that name. For level 9 druid Vanara, which is a monkey person apparently, I really want to avoid re-rolling a character. So this person apparently pissed off Pazuzu, and they decided that RD&D has the answer.
I do have the answer.
Okay, how do we get Pazuzu off our back?
Roll higher than Pazuzu. Next question.
Now I think it's really interesting that they felt like they needed to.
I said next question.
I don't care. I do think it's interesting that they felt they needed to clarify the race of their character, as if that would somehow give us the tool we needed to defeat Pazuzu.
Well, you need to know their full list of features and traits.
You got to know what tools they're bringing.
Well,
to the
since
table.
it's a homebrew bullshit that is not
no,
from
Vanera
anything.
are Pathfinder monkeys.
Well, this is on RD&D, so that can't be right.
Listen, somebody makes a mistake on the internet. Don't believe it.
no, everything on the internet is true. Don't you
So how does being a monkey person help them defeat Pazuzu?
Climbing, bananas, shit throwing.
That's profiling and profiling.
Hold on, wait. They can put their arm in Pazuzu's mouth.
There you go.
Oh my god.
They can use their blue-orange morality to confuse Pazuzu and then get a sneak attack in on them while they're trying to figure out what their behavior is.
Honestly, if they just try to explain blue-orange morality, we've already seen that eats up 10 minutes by itself.
I mean, I took psychic damage from that, so...
See,
I
well-
feel like I've made a grievous error in judgment in trying to educate the three of you, even just a little bit.
I
during
really
this hour.
learned a lot today.
we are applying
yeah,
knowledge.
we're
right now.
applying what you taught us already.
Listen, the real person who inhabits this body is extremely interested in what you're saying. The character I'm playing on this show is an idiot.
Pazuzu was regarded as an evil demon, but he was not evil incarnate, and was frequently invoked for protection from evil.
Also, where did that demon come from? Now I'm curious.
He's an Assyrian Babylonian demonic god, real popular in the first millennium BCE.
So it probably has pretty low HP.
I still like, well, if it's from first edition, you know, if it's that old, it's definitely from first edition, and those creatures didn't have very much HP at all.
Jay, this is from real life.
What's that?
It's that thing that happens in between games.
Oh, okay. The part I hate. Here's the
Hold on,
next question.
guys. Hold on, I solved it. He's killed in the Epic of Gilgamesh.
Oh.
So, there
problem
we go.
solved.
So just point out to your DM that it's already dead.
Or become bros with Gilgamesh.
Oh my Orshindaru.
Then you're done.
Okay, yeah. Pazuzu's already dead. Fuck him.
Nailed it.
Unkillable Healer. Submitted by user Genius555. If you're so smart, why the fuck are you here? I'm trying to create an unkillable healer to annoy my DM. Any suggestions?
Have obtainable goals.
Okay.
No, that's how they get you.
Yeah, exactly. If you have obtainable goals, they can get rid of you from the campaign. You've got to have unobtainable goals for first. That's the most important thing.
First.
Make your goal like to kill one of the DM's favorite gods. That'll really get on his nerves.
Also, unkillable healer. Make a revenant.
Mm-hmm.
They have a lot of feats against being dead. A lot of the times when they hit 0 hit points, they can still fight without going unconscious.
To be a revenant, you have to have died once, and does that void unkillable healer?
So you've already fucked up.
Yeah, it feels like you've already...
Well, you're undead, therefore you can no die.
Well, now you can't die again,
Right.
but you have died once in the past.
Yeah, but not in this game.
The
Create
score's
a
already
character.
1-0.
I see.
Create a character who is already dead. Not revived, not undead, just dead.
Just dead.
Yeah, now you're
And you can't
unkillable.
kill them again.
That's true.
Their soul is already in the possession of the Raven Queen.
Yes, because if they're already in the possession of the Raven Queen and they have some back to your huge goals, right? That they've got to go do a thing, then they can no die, right? And you can be, because it's a divine person, you could be a paladin, which can heal, or you can be a cleric, which can heal. And then that's what you do. Because there's all sorts of feats where there's even where you can go like negative hit points and still be fighting. And you regenerate hit points over time. I only know about this because my husband did this bullshit to me.
That is a great idea, and I think that's probably the best idea we're going to come up with. I do have another idea I want to float by the rest of you, which is when your DM says that your character takes damage, just say no.
Yeah. Tell him no.
Just
I've
deny.
tried that.
I deny your reality and I replace it with my own.
Jay gets really insistent.
I mean, your character won't get killed, but that game, well, it won't end, but it'll end for you.
Right.
It will be awkward for a minute, but at the end of the day, you did win.
Yeah, exactly. As long as you have the moral victory,
You
isn't that
stuck
the
to your
only victory
guns.
that matters? It seems like you're kind of already adversarial with your DM because you want to annoy them.
Right.
So I don't think you need to worry about hurting their feelings or ruining a good time. You should just stick to your guns. Absolutely insist that you can't take damage. Just tell him. Tell him the only way to kill him is to kill him in real life.
Now,
In
I
order to
would
kill your
say-
PC, he has to kill you. Now you're putting him in a difficult position. He doesn't want to do that.
That's only difficult depending on if you yourself are actually difficult to kill.
Well, I mean, I don't think that your DM's going to want to kill you. I think that you'll put him in a box and then he won't be able to commit to actual active murder. And
Wow.
through that, you have made your character unkillable.
You sweet summer child. You.
Well, listen, I haven't killed any of my players yet.
Yeah, because you're not strong enough to kill any of us.
I'm working on it.
Yeah, no, I know you are. And I'm very proud of you.
I also know way too much about chemistry, y'all.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Here we go.
We've got an obviator in real life on the call right now.
What do you think I do is my hobby besides D&D?
It's murder, apparently. Welcome to the call, murder phytologist.
No, well, to step back into actual game things,
How dare you?
A wild strategy. Let's see how it works out.
but be uncatchable.
Ooh, I like this.
Also good.
Hoard
like
your
it.
misty steps, your polymorphs, anything that will let you just leave a bad situation.
It's all about the hits you're not
Just
taking.
stay at the absolute maximum range all the time for your
Yeah,
healing
if
spells.
you
Yeah.
are always exactly like 59 feet to get that healing word,
Get yourself that big longbow, man. You know, it's like 300 feet.
To qualify as a healer, you just need to have a healing spell prepared.
or a healing kit.
So spend all of your resources on not dying.
Yeah.
not on healing, except just enough for it to count.
Well, healing yourself.
That's all you need.
So basically, you should take 19 levels of Bear, Totem, Barbarian, and 1 level of Cleric, and then stay at the absolute maximum range of Healing Word.
Just take a Magic Initiate feat so you can learn Healing Word.
Is the healing kit?
There is a healer's kit or an herbalism kit, but that's for something.
That's true, but you can't do that from range. Is the thing. So you do need.
Yeah, you're right.
Make your character really, really rich. Buy a whole lot of healing potions.
But buy a doctor.
Pay another better healer to follow your party.
Invent healthcare.
Stay home and just send someone else on adventures.
Yes, exactly.
That's the real goal.
I think we figured it out. I think that's the answer.
Preventive medicine.
It is.
Yes.
All right. User Spreehawks has asked, I have no friends. What's the difference between being a DM with no players and being a DM with players? A DM with no players has no problems.
And yet you DM 3 times a week.
I invite the suffering onto myself.
Because you're
I think being a DM with no players is called being a novelist.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
So if you can imagine writing a novel where nobody interrupts you and nobody bothers you and nobody tells you how to change things and nobody offers amazing new content that you never could have created on your own, that's a lot like DMing with no players.
For anyone who's listening, who's been wondering if they should start DMing, all you need to do is ask yourself, do you have any novel ideas?
Right.
Listen, it's November. It's NaNoWriMo. It's National Novel Writing Month.
Yeah, today's the first day of November.
So,
And I'm pretty sure that one of the prerequisites to being a writer is suffering, as well as loneliness, existential dread, and depression. So I don't think you need friends.
There you go.
Right. It's a prerequisite, it's a criterion while you're doing it, and it's a consequence. So
So basically, Spree Rocks, what we're saying to you is that you sound like an incredible writer. You have no friends because you were preparing for this destiny.
you know what? I hope they get friends, though.
Yeah, well, you know what? Maybe not. Maybe it's better if they just become an amazing writer. For us, selfishly. So that's what it's like being a DM with no players. What is it like being with DM with players? It's non-stop party central. Tons of fun. Everyone loves you.
I was going to say it's probably about the same but louder.
That's not true.
Imagine writing a novel where your characters are all completely untrained feral cats and they can do whatever they want. And you try desperately to get them to go down a critical path towards a narrative conclusion, and they do not like to.
You know that saying about 1,000 monkeys on 1,000 typewriters will eventually write Shakespeare? Imagine being the person trying to get them to.
Yeah, that's it.
The guy who has to thread the ribbon on the typewriter.
While they're trying to put their fists in your mouth.
Yeah. God damn it keeps coming back.
No, they will never put their fist in their mouth because players are never sorry.
Yeah, it's true.
This is also true.
That is a good point.
They love it when they can just catch you on a like. Let's say, for example, you're going great. You're having a strong delivery, and then suddenly you say the word latrine instead of toilet or the head for where the toilet is on the boat. You're like, oh yeah, on the boat there's a latrine. And then for 30 minutes, they just want to talk about the word latrine and whether that's the appropriate word for the bathroom on a boat. And no, apparently the word is the head, but your players really want you to know that in the middle of the session, and they can't possibly wait. So that's what it's like to DM.
That's wild. I
You just
can't
have
believe
to
that would
embrace
ever
the
happen.
chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you not?
I don't know. I don't think that would ever happen. That doesn't sound realistic.
I think that Matthew,
Yes, Jay.
you're the one who did it!
I think Matthew may have been lying.
I was wondering for a while, Jay, why that there was a description underneath your name on my screen.
Yeah,
and
is
what it meant.
the boat toilet is the head.
It is the head. Now
That's
I know.
my status because this
There
is
we
an
go.
important lesson that apparently had to be learned in the middle of Dungeons and Dragons.
That now you know.
I've learned a lot of boat terms. Did you know that a mast and a sail are two different things? I didn't know that.
That is
They
a
are.
thing that I think people know.
I don't think most people know that. I think that that's a thing that most people have to learn.
Well, learning things is how you come to know things.
I was not born knowing that. You are correct.
Hey, shut the fuck up.
My favorite part about that moment just there is that two of us were talking at the same time, and I'm just assuming you were mad at both of them.
It saves
Generally,
time.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Jay likes abuse.
User Pillsbury Hoboy 13. There were
That
12
explains
previous
so much.
Pillsbury
It
Hoboys. The 13th Pillsbury Hoboy asks, am I the only one who really loves the horny bard archetype? Playing the horny bard is one of the most fun things I've done in D&D. The character is never too serious, but you know shit's going down when they stop flirting with the entire party and get serious. Yes, you are the only one.
No, darling, you're not.
So if I might be serious for a moment, and then I'll stop.
You have 3 minutes.
But if I might be serious for a
Shit.
moment,
Now I know shit's going down.
Yeah, exactly.
tropes are tropes for a reason. Things like the horny bard archetype, it exists as an archetype that people know and have started to make fun of because it can be fun.
Mm-hmm.
I think the reason people have started being more critical of it is when people start treating it like if you're playing a bard, you have to play a horny character. And that's pigeonholing something that's not that fun. Like, if you're with a group that is cool with it, and that's the character you want to play, and no one's gonna hate that, and that's what you want to do it, have a blast.
Yeah, it's all about mutual respect and communication. Yeah.
I also really enjoy playing the kind of bard who treats the monster manual as their little black book.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. I think this person's probably responding to seeing some of the criticism of just saying, like, you know, people essentially saying a bard doesn't have to be horny.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also true. I don't know how to do that, but that's a personal problem.
I like to play a boring bard. The only bard I ever played was like 3-5, and you could just take oratory. So I made like a dwarf bard who just read histories out loud.
I think our game has probably the least horny bard in history.
Well, he's mostly a warlock.
Yeah, he's a bardlock, and he is sort of obsessed with the beautiful song of a Far Realms creature, and so he is. He's not horny at all. He's very... I also have Air, who played Bertrand Beestinger, who was very much sort of like the archetypical, charismatic, flirty bard. And it was fine, because we all know Air, and Air's a good person, and any shitty thing that Bertrand Beestinger said was something that Bertrand Beestinger said, and we knew that it was something that this character was saying that was kind of shitty, and, like, we were all comfortable with that because we're all close friends and we trust each other. But if you don't have a group that you know well and that you trust, they might think the shitty things that you're saying are things that you're saying, and then that might make things uncomfortable. So it's all about having, like, a communication line and trust.
Right, well... And also the thing is, just because you're playing a horny bard doesn't mean you have to be creepy. Either.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like you can, because it's like and I've played, I love playing bards, and I've played ones which are scholars, and I've played ones which are inventors, but then I've also played ones which, manipulate people. And so the thing is like, you don't necessarily have to be like disgusting or creepy or stalkery, but like...
Yeah, I would hope you're not.
Yeah, but you have to
You're
think
the
of,
hero of the story.
Exactly. So, but, think of it as like, like a lounge singer is kind of like how I think about it, where it's just like, okay, this person is refined, and is intelligent, but also knows what she wants from people.
Yeah.
And
I think another good example of that is Viari from Acquisitions Incorporated, who is definitely a very horny character, but in plenty of situations has thrown the opportunity out there to a potential partner, and if they say no, he accepts their no. Like, you respect consent, you respect wanting it to be mutual, but also being like, hey, sex is fun sometimes. If you're a person who likes sex, then do it.
Yeah, well, and that's kind of how Kate Welch even plays. She's not a bard, but, Rosie Beestinger.
But she is horny.
Yeah, it's like Han Solo is a classic example of the bard, right?
No.
Yeah, Han Solo's a bard.
Han Solo was a bard. I don't know if I agree with this.
What the fuck else would he be?
Barbarian.
A barbarian?
Rogue.
He doesn't go into a rage.
No.
All right, a rogue I can kind of see. A rogue is also pretty good.
With a heart of
But
gold.
like a bard and a rogue occupy a similar space.
Yeah, well, and that's just like being a smooth talker.
Yeah.
Like,
Charismatic.
that's all fine. Yeah, charismatic. As you said, tropes are tropes for a reason, and you don't want to profile people or put them into, corner. And yeah, sometimes you're me and you play a horny bard because you're also in a party with a player that's your brother and it creeps him out and you find it hilarious. And sometimes you only do it for that.
Yeah, now I do have a caveat to everything we've said before this, however. And the one caveat is if your username is Pillsbury Hoboy, you cannot be trusted to be responsible with the power of the horny bard.
This is 13th iteration, upstanding family line.
It should have stopped at 12. Honestly, we knew it was a failed line at 12. We didn't need a 13th attempt.
Yeah, the previous dozen Pillsbury Hoboys all got themselves killed in weirdly sexual accidents.
Gosh dang it. All I can remember is my favorite Futurama episode where it's like, what did they all die from? Crushed pelvises.
The spirit is willing, but the flesh is spongy and bruised.
I never thought I'd die this way, but I always hoped.
And other quotes from Futurama, which you too can watch. Other shows exist, but that one's good.
Not sponsored.
Well, I think that's an episode.
Certainly feels like an episode. I feel like I'm having an episode.
Here's a moment of silence for all the dead insight checkers.
They will not be missed.
I will miss them.
I'll put in a beautiful song here.
Remember you.
I think that's copyright. I don't think I can use that one.
It was a short enough clip that I think that's fair use.
Yeah, all right. Well, that was a moment of silence. I wasn't silent at all.
Not remotely.
Profoundly sonorous moment of silence.
And as always, that was another episode of Insight Check. Thank you so much to Drunk Phytologist, Kaldrenon, and Matt Will Jackson for joining me. It was kind of late notice. I really do appreciate you all stepping in here. Nobody could have foreseen the tragic death of the other Insight Checkers.
No, we're the new Insight Check, and we're so honored that you picked us.
Hopefully their ghosts will be here to haunt the podcast next week. We're having them shipped in from the crash site.
Just gonna be real quiet and let these jokes flounder.
Thanks, bud.
Just keep digging. I'll hand you a shovel when yours breaks.
Keep digging.
Thank you so much to Amy T. Falcone for our faces and social media branding. Without you, we wouldn't have faces. Thank you so much to Vince Wept for the song Never Stand Alone, which is really good. And thank you to you all for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please leave a review on iTunes
or
Apple Podcasts, whatever it's called.
Or wherever podcasts are sold.
Yeah, wherever you get podcasts. We're actually on Spotify now, so check us out on there. And you can follow us at Insight Check Pod on Twitter, where you could also submit questions, or go to our Discord, where we also take questions as well for community grab bag episodes, of which I think one is probably imminent. As always,
answering your cues
from our collective A's.
This
was
Insight
Check!
We'll edit this out. Okay, there we go. That was it. We'll edit this out.
There you go. You got it. Nailed it.
I have said it.
I needed to do it.
Whether or not it ends up in the show is not in my hands, and that's cool.